My mom started a rental granddaughters service when I was 10, where she made me and my sister visit lonely old men for money. When I came back from college years later, I found my sister sitting on the couch with bandaged wrists, still getting dressed in matching outfits for her bookings, while our mom scheduled her for $5,000 weekend sleepovers. She was so broken. She had a seizure when the clients showed up to collect her, but mom just kept taking calls about rescheduling appointments. My mom is the most entitled beach I've ever met. She was the type to believe that she should be handed money simply for existing. So by the time I was 10 years old, me and my older sister Zara, who was 11, had spent our entire lives living in a trailer in the middle of nowhere. And it was around this time that mom's companionship service really took off. You know, lonely elderly people, widowers with no family, seniors whose kids never visit. She started taking us to senior centers and retirement homes, introducing us as rental granddaughters. She bought us matching dresses, taught us to call strangers grandpa, said we were providing a valuable service, started scheduling us for 3 to 4 visits per day to maximize income. By 11 years old, I was learning to dodge wandering hands and forced smiles, while my older sister was 12 years old and had completely checked out, just going through the motions like a doll. You see, she always gave in to my mom's demands more than me. She would start her morning by putting on her granddaughter costume without complaint and practiced her sweet voice in the mirror, so her bookings took off before mine. Mom used to brag to other parents at the senior center about how natural Zara was, how the old men requested her specifically. I remember when Zara got her first $500 tip from a regular client, Mom told her she was the best daughter a mother could ask for, and even took her out shopping. I'm so glad you're not like your difficult sister, who can't even pretend to care for shit. Her backhanded comments were designed to hurt me, but instead they just made me feel bad for Zara, because I was forced to watch as she became more and more empty inside. Eventually she had so many regular clients requesting her that I couldn't even compete anymore, so I started making myself less appealing, talking back, refusing to sit on laps, accidentally spilling drinks. And I tried to wake Zara up, hoping it would make something click in her head. Don't you feel gross when Mr. Peterson touches your hair? I'd ask her at night, or sometimes I'd show her the scratches I made on my arms and ask if she wanted to talk, but she'd just stare at the wall. And by the time she had turned 15, they had serviced over 1,000 lonely seniors, and Mom had business cards printed up. Then came the next wave of Mom's BS, the premium packages. I still remember the day she came home with new matching nightgowns. She was showing them off while explaining the sleepover service for extra lonely clients. My mom made Zara model hers, and that evening she literally threw a wine party for potential clients' families. Not for her birthday, not for any major celebration. It was solely to network with adult children who felt guilty about abandoning their parents. Over the next few weeks, Zara became Mom's premium service provider. Overnight stays, weekend trips, live-in arrangements during holidays. By this point, I was 13 years old and had learned to hurt myself enough to avoid bookings since the beginning. And even though I knew it was wrong, all I wanted was my mom's approval. So I agreed to take some day visits, but made sure to come back with complaints about behavior. And she thanked me, but that was it, because it was already too late. Zara had regular clients who specifically requested her, and to Mom's network, I would always just be the difficult daughter. At the senior centers, staff would pull me aside and whisper that Zara was so patient, so sweet. Other times I'd see her walking out of rooms with that 1,000-yard stare, adjusting her dress, and I didn't even have a sister anymore, because anytime I tried to talk to her, she would just say she was tired and turn away. Fast forward to when I turned 17, and I finally moved out for college. I changed all my contact information and moved to Jamestown in Tennessee, somewhere no one would recognize me. I finally got my fresh start. I stopped flinching when older men talked to me. I met friends who had normal families. I stopped checking my arms for fresh cuts every morning. And a few years later, when I was doing my routine check of Mom's business Facebook page, I saw that she had stopped posting about Zara. This was strange because Zara was still her star employee, and the comments were full of clients asking for bookings. Part of me was extremely worried, but mostly I was curious as heck. So much so that I ended up going back home for Thanksgiving that year. The second my mom opened the door, she slapped me across the face. "You selfish brat! How could you have abandoned your family business?" I sighed and just shoved past her, completely expecting this response. "Zara, get out here! Show your sister what you've been working on!" That's when I heard it. A flat, emotionless voice from the living room. "I can't right now." I walked in and saw Zara sitting on the couch, staring at nothing. Her wrists were wrapped in bandages. She looked like a ghost. As I sat next to her, she finally looked at me with those empty eyes. "Mr. Williams had a heart attack last week during a visit. She couldn't finish. Her words were hollow, and she was practically catatonic. Mom says I need to be ready for the memorial. His family wants me to speak about what a good grandfather he was." I was ready to make our mom pay. I grabbed her shoulders, trying to get through to her. She didn't even react. Mom stormed into the room, her face twisted with rage. "Don't you dare upset her. She has work tomorrow." Mom yanked me away from Zara, her nails digging into my arm. 3 bookings lined up. The Williams family specifically requested her for the memorial service. I shook her off and stood between her and Zara. "She's not going anywhere. Look at her. She needs help." Mom's laugh was sharp and bitter. "Help? She needs to work. Do you know how much money we've lost since you abandoned us? The business barely stays afloat with just one girl." I glanced back at Zara. She hadn't moved, hadn't blinked. The bandages on her wrists were fresh. Probably changed this morning. My stomach churned. "What happened to her wrists?" I demanded. Mom waved dismissively. "She had a little accident. Nothing serious. The clients don't even notice if she wears long sleeves. A little accident." I moved closer to Zara again, sitting beside her on the couch. This time, Mom didn't stop me. She was too busy ranting about lost income and ungrateful daughters. "Zara," I whispered, "I'm here now. I'm going to help you." Her eyes shifted slightly toward me, but there was no recognition, no spark of the sister I once knew, just emptiness. Mom's phone buzzed. She answered it with her business voice, all sweetness and light. "Hello, Mrs. Chen. Yes, Zara is available this weekend." "The whole weekend?" "Of course. She loves spending time with Mr. Chen." I watched Zara flinch at the name. It was subtle, just a slight tightening around her eyes, but it was something. She was still in there somewhere. Mom hung up and smiled at me. "See? Business is booming. If you'd stayed, we could have expanded. Maybe opened a second location." "You're insane," I said. Her smile vanished. "I'm a businesswoman. I saw a need in the market and filled it. These lonely old people need companionship. We provide a service. You're selling your daughters. I'm providing for my family." She slammed her hand on the coffee table. "Everything I've done has been for you girls. The clothes, the training, the connections. Do you know how many mothers would cull for the opportunities I've given you? I stood up, pulling Zara with me. She was lighter than I remembered, fragile like a bird. We're leaving. Mom blocked our path. She's not going anywhere. She has contracts, commitments. The Chen family alone pays $5,000 a month for exclusive weekend access. $5,000 a month for weekend access to my sister. My hands shook with rage. Get out of the way, I said. Or what? You'll call the police? Go ahead. Tell them about our legitimate companionship service. Show them the contracts. Everything is perfectly legal. She was right. I knew she was right. That's why she'd been so careful all these years. Why she'd networked with the families. Why she'd created the perfect cover story. Rental granddaughters. Companionship for the elderly. Nothing technically illegal about it. Zara swayed beside me, and I tightened my grip on her arm. Come on, Zara. Let's go to your room. Mom stepped aside, smirking. Fine, but she has a booking at 9 tomorrow morning. Mr. Peterson specifically requested her. He's been so lonely since his wife died. Mr. Peterson, the one who liked to touch her hair. I remembered him from years ago. His trembling hands and wet eyes. The way he'd stare at us in our matching dresses. I guided Zara down the hallway to her old room. It looked exactly the same as when I'd left, except for one thing. The closet was full of those matching dresses, in adult sizes now. Different colors, different styles, but all with the same innocent little girl aesthetic that made my skin crawl. Zara sat on the bed and stared at the wall. I sat beside her, not sure what to say or do. How do you bring someone back from this kind of emptiness? Remember when we used to plan our escape? I asked softly. We were going to run away to the city, get jobs at a mall, share an apartment. Nothing. You wanted to be a teacher. You said you'd teach kids to read, make sure they had better lives than us. Still nothing. I noticed a notebook on her nightstand. Opening it, I found pages and pages of the same sentence written over and over. I am providing a valuable service. I am providing a valuable service. I am providing a valuable service. Mom appeared in the doorway. She writes that every night before bed. Helps her remember her purpose. You're a monster, I said. I'm a mother who refused to let her children starve. When your father left us with nothing, I found a way to survive, to thrive even, by selling us to old men, by providing companionship to lonely seniors. God, you always were so dramatic. No one's forcing Zara to do anything. She could leave anytime she wants. I looked at my sister, at her bandaged wrists and empty eyes. Yeah, she looks really free to me. Mom's phone buzzed again. Another booking, probably. Another lonely old man willing to pay for time with a young woman who'd been trained since childhood to call him grandpa. I need to take this, Mom said. Make sure Zara gets to bed early. Mr. Peterson likes her well rested. She left, already switching to her business voice. I could hear her in the hallway, negotiating rates and services like my sister was a product in a catalog. I turned back to Zara. We're getting out of here. Both of us. Tonight. For the first time since I'd arrived, Zara spoke unprompted. I can't. Yes, you can. I have an apartment. A job. I can take care of you. I can't, she repeated. I have bookings. Forget the bookings. I can't. Her voice was mechanical, rehearsed. I provide a valuable service. The clients need me. Mr. Peterson needs me. Mr. Chen needs me. They're all so lonely. I wanted to shake her, to scream, to somehow break through whatever programming our mother had drilled into her head, but I could see it was useless. Years of this had broken something inside her. Mom's voice drifted from the kitchen, still on the phone. Yes, overnight stays are available. Zara is very experienced with that service. I stood up, pacing the small room. There had to be a way to help her, to get her out of this nightmare. But how do you save someone who doesn't even know they need saving? The front door opened, and I heard a man's voice. Familiar, but I couldn't place it. Is Zara ready? I know I'm early, but I couldn't wait to see my special girl, Mr. Peterson. He wasn't supposed to be here until tomorrow morning. Mom's voice was apologetic. Oh wow, this just got so much darker. I can't believe the mom is actually scheduling these bookings right in front of her daughter like it's just normal business. I'm so sorry, Mr. Peterson. There's been a slight mix-up with the scheduling. Zara isn't quite ready yet. Oh, that's fine. I'll wait. Is she in her room? I could help her get ready. My blood ran cold. I moved to block the doorway as footsteps approached. Mr. Peterson appeared in the hallway, older than I remembered but with the same hungry eyes. He saw me and frowned. Who's this? My younger daughter, Mom said quickly. She's just visiting. His eyes lit up. The difficult one. My, how you've grown. Are you back in the business? I have friends who would pay top dollar for fresh faces. I wanted to vomit. Get out. Mom grabbed my arm. Don't be rude to our clients. I said get out. Mr. Peterson chuckled. Feisty. Some of my friends like that. Here's my card if you change your mind. He tried to hand me a business card. I slapped it away. Now, he said. That's no way to treat potential customers. Your mother has built a wonderful business here. You should be proud. Proud? She's destroying my sister. He glanced past me at Zara, still sitting motionless on the bed. She looks fine to me. A little tired maybe. Nothing a good night's rest won't fix. Speaking of which, I have the guest room all ready for her visit this weekend. She's not going anywhere with you. Mom pulled me aside, hissing in my ear. Stop this right now. You have no idea what you're doing. The Petersons pay our rent. Without them, we lose everything. Good. Maybe then you'll stop selling Zara. Mr. Peterson cleared his throat. Perhaps I should come back tomorrow when everyone's calmed down. That would be best, Mom said, shooting me a murderous look. I'm so sorry about this disruption. He left, but not before giving Zara one last lingering look. See you tomorrow, sweetheart. After the front door closed, Mom turned on me. How dare you? Do you have any idea what you've just done? Protecting my sister from a predator? Protecting her? You've probably cost us our biggest client. How are we supposed to pay bills? How is Zara supposed to eat? Maybe get a real job like normal people. Mom laughed bitterly. A real job? I'm 53 years old with no education and no skills. Who's going to hire me? And Zara, look at her. She can barely function. This is all she knows. I looked back at my sister. She hadn't moved during the entire confrontation. It was like she wasn't even there. This ends now, I said. No more bookings, no more clients, no more business. You can't just come back here and destroy everything I've built. Watch me. I went back to Zara, kneeling in front of her. Pack a bag. We're leaving. She didn't move. Zara, please, pack a bag. I have bookings, she said flatly. Mom smirked from the doorway. See? She knows her responsibilities, unlike some people. I stood up, frustration boiling over. Fine, I'll pack for her. I grabbed a duffel bag from the closet and started throwing in clothes. Not the matching dresses, but the few normal clothes I could find. Jeans, t-shirts, a sweater that looked like it had never been worn. Mom watched, arms crossed. This is kidnapping, you know. She's an adult. She has contracts. Sue me. I might just do that. Or maybe I'll call the police. Tell them you're trying to abduct my daughter. I paused, a shirt in my hands. Would she really call the police? And if she did, what would they see? A legitimate business, contracts, a daughter trying to interfere? Number I couldn't let fear stop me. Not when Zara needed help. help. I finished packing and zipped the bag. Come on, Zara, we're going. She looked at me with those empty eyes. I can't miss my bookings. There are no more bookings. You're done. It's over. Mother says I provide a valuable service. Mother is wrong. Mom stepped forward. How dare you? Everything I've done has been for yourself, I shouted. You used us, sold us, and for what? So you didn't have to get a real job? I gave you opportunities. I gave you a business. You gave us trauma. The word hung in the air between us. Mom's face went red. Trauma? You ungrateful little witch. I saved you from poverty, from foster care, from the streets. You turned us into products. I turned you into providers. Zara understands that. She's grateful. She's loyal. I looked at my broken sister, at her bandaged wrists and thousand-yard stare. Yeah, she looks really grateful. Mom's phone buzzed again. Another client probably. Another booking for my sister's time and what was left of her soul. I need to take this, Mom said. We're not done here. She left the room, and I heard her switch to her business voice again. Sweet, professional, accommodating. The voice that had sold us to hundreds of lonely old men over the years. I sat beside Zara again, taking her hand. It was cold, limp. I'm sorry I left you, I whispered. I'm sorry I didn't take you with me, but I'm here now, and I'm going to fix this. I promise. She turned to look at me, and for just a moment I thought I saw something flicker in her eyes. Recognition? Hope? But then it was gone, and she was empty again. I have bookings, she said. I spent that night sitting beside Zara, watching her sleep. Her breathing was shallow, interrupted by occasional whimpers. Mom had retreated to her room after fielding 3 more booking calls, each time louder and more animated about the premium rates for holiday weekends. Morning came too quickly. I heard Mom moving around the kitchen, preparing what she called Zara's work breakfast. Bland oatmeal and vitamins to keep her energy up for long days. The routine made me sick. Zara woke mechanically at 7, sitting up like a wind-up doll. She moved toward the closet without acknowledging me, reaching for one of those horrible dresses. I grabbed her wrist gently. She froze, staring at my hand like it was foreign. After a moment, she pulled away and continued getting dressed. The morning routine was too deeply ingrained. Mom appeared in the doorway with a tray. She set it on the dresser and turned to me with cold calculation in her eyes. I could see her mind working, figuring out how to remove me from the equation. She left without speaking, but I heard her on the phone minutes later, voice syrupy sweet. She was rescheduling appointments, moving them earlier, trying to get Zara out before I could interfere. I helped Zara eat, though she barely managed a few spoonfuls. Her hands trembled holding the spoon. When she finished, she stood automatically, moving toward the door. I blocked her path. She stopped, confused by the disruption to her routine. For several minutes we stood there, her staring through me while I tried to figure out my next move. Mom's footsteps approached. She entered carrying Zara's coat and purse, her movements efficient and businesslike. She maneuvered around me, dressing Zara like a child. I grabbed the car keys from Mom's pocket while she was distracted. She spun around, face contorting with rage. We struggled briefly before she backhanded me across the face. The sting brought tears to my eyes. While I recovered, Mom guided Zara toward the front door. I scrambled after them, keys clutched in my fist. Outside, Mom tried to load Zara into the car, but without keys she couldn't go anywhere. She turned on me, advancing with her fists clenched. I backed away, keeping the keys out of reach. We circled each other in the driveway while Zara stood motionless by the car. Mom lunged for the keys. I dodged, but she caught my hair, yanking hard. We grappled on the concrete, her nails raking my arms. Years of pent-up rage fueled my strength as I shoved her away. She stumbled, catching herself against the car. Her business facade cracked completely, revealing the desperate woman underneath. She was breathing hard, hair disheveled, makeup smeared. I pocketed the keys and approached Zara, who hadn't moved during the fight. Taking her hand, I led her back toward the house. Mom followed, screaming threats about police and lawsuits and ruined futures. Inside, I locked the door and guided Zara back to her room. Mom pounded on the door, then the windows, her voice growing hoarse. Eventually, the pounding stopped. I peeked through the curtains to see her walking down the road, cell phone pressed to her ear. I knew she'd be back with reinforcements. Maybe clients, maybe relatives she'd convinced I was unstable. I had limited time to figure out our next move. Searching Mom's room, I found her business files, contracts, payment records, client information. The scope was staggering. 43 active clients, some paying monthly retainers for exclusive access. Zara's schedule was booked solid through New Year's. One folder made my stomach turn. Photos of Zara with various elderly men, staged to look like family portraits. She wore different dresses in each, her smile never reaching her eyes. Some showed her at dinner tables, others on park benches, a few in what looked like bedrooms. I heard a car approaching. Through the window, I saw Mom returning in a taxi. She wasn't alone. 2 elderly men accompanied her, Mr. Peterson and another I didn't recognize. They approached the house together. Mom produced a spare key from under a fake rock. I grabbed Zara and pulled her into the bathroom, locking the door behind us. Footsteps echoed through the house. Mom's voice carried, explaining to the men that I was having a breakdown, that I was dangerous, that Zara needed to fulfill her commitments. The bathroom doorknob rattled, then harder pounding. The old door frame groaned under the assault. Zara sat on the closed toilet, rocking slightly, her lips moving in silent repetition of her mantra. The door splintered near the lock. I positioned myself between Zara and the door as it burst open. Mom stood there with the 2 men, triumph gleaming in her eyes. Mr. Peterson reached for Zara. I slapped his hand away, shoving him backward. He stumbled into the hallway, indignation reddening his face. The other man tried to circle around me, but the bathroom was too small. Mom grabbed my shoulders, trying to pull me away from Zara. We struggled in the cramped space, knocking over toiletries, banging against walls. The men watched hungrily, waiting for their chance. I managed to break free and grabbed Zara, pushing past them into the hallway. We ran for the front door, but the second man moved surprisingly fast for his age, blocking our escape. Trapped between them, I held Zara tight. She was limp in my arms, dissociated completely from the chaos. Mom advanced, her face a mask of cold determination. The standoff broke when Zara suddenly collapsed. Her legs gave out, and she crumpled to the floor, pulling me down with her. She began convulsing, her body rigid, foam forming at her mouth. Everyone froze. Even Mom's mask slipped, showing genuine alarm. The men backed away, suddenly looking like confused old men rather than predators. I rolled Zara onto her side, holding her head. The seizure lasted maybe 30 seconds, but it felt like hours. When it ended, she lay still, breathing raggedly. Mom knelt beside us, reaching for Zara. I shoved her away. She retreated, but I could see her calculating, trying to figure out how this affected her business model. The men muttered about calling an ambulance. Mom quickly ushered them out, making excuses. promising makeup appointments. Their concern for Zara evaporated once they realized they wouldn't get their scheduled time. After they left, Mom returned, standing over us. Her voice was ice when she spoke about the appointments that would need rescheduling, the money lost, the clients who might find other services. I helped Zara to the couch. She was conscious but unresponsive, staring at nothing. Mom paced the room, phone in hand, already working damage control. Over the next hour, I listened to her field calls, apologizing, rescheduling, offering discounts. Oh wow, this fight scene is intense, bro. I can't believe the mom actually hit her own daughter, and then they're wrestling on the driveway over car keys. This is like something out of an action movie, but so much more heartbreaking because it's a mom doing this to her kid. Her ability to compartmentalize was terrifying. Her daughter had just had a seizure and she was worried about customer retention. Between calls, she turned on me, blamed me for Zara's condition, said the stress of my interference caused the seizure, said if Zara couldn't work anymore, it would be my fault when they lost the house. I ignored her, focused on Zara. She needed medical attention, but I knew Mom would never allow it. Too many questions, too much risk to the business. So I did what I could, keeping her comfortable, monitoring her breathing. As afternoon wore on, Mom's demeanor shifted. She became almost pleasant, offering me food, suggesting we talk like adults. I recognized the manipulation but played along, hoping to buy time. She laid out her position like a business proposal. The company needed 2 girls to remain profitable. If I wouldn't participate, and if Zara couldn't work, she'd need to recruit. Maybe runaways, maybe foster kids aging out of the system. The threat was clear. Leave, and other girls would take our place. Girls with no one to protect them, no one to notice if they disappeared entirely. Mom had thought this through, probably had contingencies I couldn't imagine. She showed me the books, the real ones. The business grossed nearly $20,000 a month. Expenses were minimal, just the dresses and transportation. Most went to Mom's savings, though she claimed it was for our futures. I asked about Zara's seizure. Mom dismissed it, said stress would pass once routines returned to normal. She'd had episodes before, apparently. Never during appointments, thankfully. Bad for business. The casualness of it stunned me. Her daughter's body was literally breaking down, and she viewed it as an inconvenience, a mechanical problem in her money-making machine. Evening approached with 3 more clients scheduled. Mom prepared Zara despite her condition, dressing her in a pink dress with white lace. Zara moved like a sleepwalker, compliant but vacant. I tried intervening again, but Mom had learned. She kept physical distance, using Zara's programmed obedience against me. Every time I approached, she'd direct Zara to move away, and Zara would obey. The doorbell rang. Mrs. Chen had arrived personally to collect Zara for the weekend. A small, well-dressed woman who looked like someone's sweet grandmother, until you noticed how she appraised Zara like merchandise. Mom invited her in, apologizing for the morning's disruptions. Mrs. Chen waved it off, more concerned about whether Zara was still available. Her husband was so looking forward to their visit. I watched the negotiation with growing horror. They discussed Zara like she wasn't there, debating pickup times and meal preferences. Mrs. Chen mentioned her husband's new medication made him more energetic. When Mrs. Chen reached for Zara's hand, I snapped, grabbed a lamp and smashed it against the wall. The crash made everyone jump. I held the broken base like a weapon, positioning myself between them and Zara. Mom tried to defuse the situation, but Mrs. Chen was already backing toward the door. She muttered about finding more stable arrangements and left quickly. Mom's face went purple with rage. She came at me with surprising speed. We crashed into furniture, knocked over pictures, scattered her precious business files. Years of resentment fueled both of us as we grappled on the living room floor. I was younger and stronger, but Mom fought dirty. She went for my eyes, my hair, anywhere that would hurt. We rolled across broken lamp fragments, both collecting cuts and bruises. The fight ended when Zara screamed. Not a normal scream, a raw animal sound that seemed to come from somewhere deep and broken. We both froze, turning to see her clutching her head, rocking violently. Blood ran from her nose. She was hitting herself, hard repeated blows to her temples. I scrambled to stop her while Mom sat frozen, finally seeing what she'd created. I restrained Zara's hands, but she fought me with unexpected strength. She was completely gone, lost in some internal hell. Her screams became words, fragments of conversations with clients, apologies, pleas to be good. It took 20 minutes to calm her. By then, she'd bloodied her face and mine. Mom hadn't moved, still sitting among the debris of our fight, staring at her broken daughter. When Zara finally stilled, she looked at me with momentary clarity. Her voice was small, childlike when she asked why she felt so empty inside. Then the moment passed, and she was gone again. I cleaned her face while Mom made phone calls in the kitchen, canceling appointments for real this time. Her voice lacked its usual polish. The reality had finally penetrated her delusions. Night fell with us in separate corners of the house. Mom in her room with her files, probably calculating losses. Me with Zara, who'd fallen into fitful sleep. The house felt like a tomb. Around midnight, I heard Mom on the phone again. Her voice was different, desperate, pleading. She was calling relatives, old friends, anyone who might lend money. The business was failing without Zara. I used the distraction to search her room again, found bank statements showing she'd saved over $200,000, more than enough to start over, get real jobs, get Zara help, but Mom would never touch it. In her closet, I discovered worse things. Videos on old memory cards, recordings of training sessions from when we were young, teaching us how to sit, how to smile, how to deflect wandering hands without offending clients. One showed Zara at 12, practicing her grandfather voice while Mom critiqued her performance. Another had me at 11, crying while Mom explained why I needed to be more like my sister. Evidence of years of grooming. I pocketed the memory cards and returned to Zara. She was awake, sitting up in bed, whispering her mantra again. The repetition was her only comfort, the one constant in her fractured world. Morning brought new crises. 3 clients had formally withdrawn from the service. Word was spreading about the unstable situation. Mom fielded calls all morning, her carefully built network crumbling. She cornered me in the kitchen, demanding I fix this. If I'd just leave, she could salvage things. Zara would recover with routine. Clients would return. Everything could go back to normal. I showed her one of the memory cards. Her face went white when she realized what I'd found. The evidence that would destroy more than just her business if it got out. We stared at each other across the kitchen table. Mother and daughter, predator and protector. The standoff stretched until Zara wandered in, drawn by voices. She looked between us with those empty eyes. Mom reached for her, and I didn't stop her. Zara let herself be embraced, but there was no warmth in it, just habit and hollow comfort. Mom whispered apologies to Zara. Not real ones. Apologies that the business was struggling, that routines were disrupted. She promised things would be better soon, that she'd find new clients who'd appreciate her special girl. The doorbell interrupted her promises. We weren't expecting anyone. Mom went to answer while I stayed with Zara, ready to run if needed. Voices drifted from the entryway. Not clients. A man and woman, asking about Zara. Mom's responses were guarded. I crept closer to listen. They were from Adult Protective Services. Someone had called about a vulnerable adult in danger. They wanted to speak with Zara, assess her condition. Mom was stonewalling, demanding warrants. I made a choice. Took Zara's hand and walked to the entryway. The social workers were young, professional, concerned. They introduced themselves gently to Zara, who didn't respond. Mom tried to intervene, spinning stories about mental illness and family caregiving, but they were focused on Zara, noting her condition, the fresh bruises from her self-harm, her obvious dissociation. They asked to speak with her privately. Mom objected, but I agreed. Led them and Zara to the living room while Mom hovered in the doorway, radiating panic. The interview was gentle but thorough. Zara couldn't answer most questions, but her condition spoke volumes. The workers exchanged glances, making notes. They asked about the bandages on her wrists. Mom burst in, demanding they leave, threatening lawyers, lawsuits, harassment charges. The workers remained calm, explaining they'd need to follow up, that Zara appeared to need immediate intervention. After they left, Mom turned on me with pure venom. I'd destroyed everything. The business, their future, Zara's purpose. All because I couldn't understand the service they provided. She grabbed the phone, started calling clients, warning them about investigations. Some were angry, some scared. The careful network she'd built was collapsing as everyone rushed to protect themselves. Zara watched it all without comprehension. The chaos meant nothing to her. She just wanted her routine, her bookings, the structure that defined her existence. Without it, she was lost. That night, Mom made her final play. She came to Zara's room where I was keeping watch. Her demeanor had changed again. Now she was motherly, concerned, reasonable. She proposed a compromise. She'd scale back the business, only a few trusted clients. Get Zara therapy, real help. But they needed income to survive. Just a few bookings a week, nothing overnight. I might have considered it if I hadn't seen Zara's notebook. New pages filled with the same sentence, but now in shaky, desperate handwriting. Her mind was fracturing further every day. Mom saw my refusal in my eyes. Her mask dropped completely. She lunged for the memory cards I'd stupidly left visible on the dresser. We fought again, quieter this time, not wanting to trigger Zara. She was stronger than she looked, desperation giving her energy. We struggled over the cards, crashing into furniture, knocking over Zara's carefully arranged items. Zara didn't scream this time. She just stood and walked out. By the time we noticed, she was already at the front door, heading into the night in her pajamas. We chased after her, our fight forgotten. She moved with purpose for the first time in years, heading down the dark street. Mom called her name, promised her anything, everything, but Zara kept walking. Barefoot on cold pavement, she seemed drawn by some internal compass. We followed, Mom alternating between threats and pleas. She led us to the senior center 6 blocks away, closed and dark, but Zara went to the side entrance she'd used hundreds of times. She stood there, waiting to be let in for her booking. Mom tried to guide her home, but Zara resisted. She needed to work, to provide her valuable service. The clients were waiting. She couldn't be late. We stood in that dark parking lot, 3 broken women in the cold. Mom finally seemed to grasp what she'd done. Her perfect employee couldn't function without the structure of abuse. I wrapped my jacket around Zara and called 911. Mom didn't try to stop me. She sat on the curb, looking older than her years, watching her life's work stand confused in the darkness. The ambulance came quickly. The paramedics were gentle with Zara, recognizing trauma when they saw it. They asked questions I couldn't fully answer, but promised she'd get help. Mom rode with her. I followed in my car, the memory cards heavy in my pocket. At the hospital, they took Zara for evaluation while we waited in hard plastic chairs. Hours passed. Mom didn't speak, just stared at her hands. When doctors finally emerged, their expressions were grim. Zara was in severe psychological crisis. She'd need intensive inpatient treatment. They asked about her history. Mom stayed silent, so I gave them the basics. The doctors exchanged knowing looks. They'd seen this before, different versions of the same tragedy. Zara was admitted to the psychiatric ward. Oh my god, that image of her standing at the dark door waiting to be let in for a booking that would never happen, WTF. And the mom sitting on that curb, finally seeing what she created, watching her daughter stand confused in the darkness. This is such powerful writing. We couldn't see her. She was too unstable. They'd call when she was ready for visitors, if she ever was. In the parking lot, Mom finally broke. Not crying, just empty, like Zara had been. She asked what would happen to the business, to the clients, to her savings. I told her it was over. All of it. She could use her savings to get Zara treatment, start fresh somewhere else. Or I could turn over the evidence and let justice run its course. She chose Zara. For the first time in years, she chose her daughter over her business. It wasn't redemption, just survival instinct, but it was something. The next morning, I drove back to Mom's house alone. She'd stayed at the hospital, filling out paperwork with shaking hands. I had work to do. I started with the client list. 43 names, addresses, phone numbers. Each one represented years of exploitation. I began making calls, using Mom's business voice that I'd heard thousands of times. Mr. Peterson answered on the second ring. I explained that the service was closing permanently, effective immediately. He sputtered, demanded explanations, threatened to show up at the house. I hung up and moved to the next number. Some clients accepted the news quietly. Others grew angry, insisting they had contracts, demanding refunds for prepaid sessions. A few asked about Zara specifically, their concern thinly veiling disappointment about losing access. Mrs. Chen required a house visit. She lived in a gated community 20 minutes away. The security guard waved me through after checking the list. Mom had been here many times. The house was massive, pristine. Mrs. Chen answered the door in silk pajamas, her husband visible in the background watching television. She invited me in for tea, clearly expecting this was about rescheduling. I declined the tea and handed her an envelope containing her last month's payment. She counted it slowly, frowning. When I explained the service was permanently discontinued, her pleasant mask slipped. She mentioned contracts, threatened legal action. Her husband shuffled over, confused about the disruption. I noticed how his eyes searched the room, probably looking for Zara. The way his hands trembled reminded me of all the others. I left them arguing in Mandarin and drove to the next address. By noon, I'd visited 12 homes, returned thousands in prepaid fees from Mom's business account. Each stop revealed the same pattern: lonely seniors and their guilty families who'd paid for a disturbing solution. Back at the house, I gathered all the matching dresses from Zara's closet, dozens of them, ranging ranging from little girl styles to more mature but still unsettlingly innocent designs. I stuffed them into garbage bags, along with the promotional materials and business cards. The senior center was my next stop. The director, Catherine, recognized me from years ago. Her face went pale when I explained why I was there. She claimed ignorance about the true nature of Mom's service, but her eyes said otherwise. I showed her one of the promotional flyers Mom had posted on their bulletin board. Rental granddaughters, bringing family love to your loved ones. Catherine removed it quickly, mumbling about policy violations. The retirement homes were worse. At Sunset Manor, I found Mom's business cards in the lobby. The receptionist said Zara visited every Tuesday and Thursday, had her own parking spot, was listed as an approved visitor for 8 residents. I spent the afternoon removing every trace of the business from these places, tore down flyers, collected business cards, had my name and Zara's removed from visitor lists. Staff members avoided eye contact, clearly aware of what had been happening. That evening, I returned to find Mom back from the hospital. She sat at the kitchen table, surrounded by financial documents, her savings accounts, investment portfolios, property deeds, planning her next move. She looked up when I entered, her face unreadable. I placed the empty client payment envelopes on the table. She stared at them, calculating losses, $23,000 in refunds, 3 months of income gone. I pulled out the memory cards next, setting them beside the envelopes. Mom's jaw tightened. She knew what they contained. Years of evidence that would destroy more than just her reputation if released. She stood slowly, gathering her documents. I watched her sort through papers, separating business from personal. The methodical movements reminded me of Zara's morning routines. Programmed behaviors neither could break. Mom packed 2 suitcases that night. Clothes, documents, photo albums with our faces cut out of most pictures. She moved through the house like a ghost, touching furniture and walls as if memorizing them. I found her in Zara's room at midnight, sitting on the bed. She held one of the matching dresses, running her fingers over the lace collar. For a moment, she looked like any mother mourning a lost child. She left before dawn, loading her car in darkness. I watched from the window as she paused at the end of the driveway, perhaps waiting for me to stop her. When I didn't move, she drove away. The house felt different without her, quieter, but also heavier. I spent the morning cleaning, finding remnants of the business everywhere. Client thank you cards, payment receipts, scheduling calendars with Zara's time blocked out in hourly increments. In Mom's room, I discovered a hidden safe behind a painting. The combination was Zara's birthday. Inside were more memory cards, backup drives, and printed emails from clients. Some described their sessions in disturbing detail. I destroyed everything, burned the papers in the backyard, smashed the drives with a hammer, cut the memory cards into pieces. Neighbors probably wondered about the smoke, but no one investigated. The hospital called that afternoon. Zara was stable enough for visitors. I drove over immediately, hope and dread warring in my chest. The psychiatric ward required multiple security checks before allowing entry. Zara sat in a common area, wearing hospital scrubs instead of a matching dress. She looked smaller somehow, younger. A nurse explained she'd been sedated initially, but was responding well to medication. When Zara saw me, her face remained blank, but she didn't recite her mantra or mention bookings. Progress, the nurse said. I sat across from her, maintaining distance. Too much too soon could trigger another episode. We sat in silence for an hour. Other patients moved around us, some talking to invisible companions, others staring at walls. Zara fit right in, except for the way her hands kept smoothing invisible wrinkles from her lap. A doctor pulled me aside afterward. Zara would need months of intensive treatment, possibly years of therapy. The trauma was extensive, deeply embedded. They'd seen similar cases in trafficking victims, though none quite like this. I signed paperwork making me her temporary guardian. Mom had apparently relinquished rights that morning, signing forms with the same efficiency she'd used for client contracts. Always the businesswoman, even in surrender. The next weeks blurred together. Daily hospital visits, meetings with social workers, consultations with therapists. Zara slowly began speaking beyond her programmed responses, though conversations remained fragmented and confused. I cleaned out the trailer, selling furniture and donating clothes. Found more evidence of the business tucked everywhere. Client gifts, thank you notes, photos of Zara at various ages with different elderly men. All went into the fire. The senior centers started calling, not for bookings, but to ask about Zara. Some clients genuinely seemed concerned. Others clearly missed their granddaughter. I gave them all the same response. She was receiving medical care and wouldn't be returning. Mr. Peterson showed up at the house one evening. He rang the doorbell persistently, calling Zara's name. I watched through the peephole as he eventually gave up, leaving a gift bag on the porch. Inside was a gold necklace and a note professing his grandfatherly love. I added both to the burn pile. Mom's absence created practical problems. The trailer was in her name, utilities too. I spent days transferring everything, grateful for the money I'd saved working in Tennessee. Without it, we'd have been homeless. Zara's first overnight home visit came after 6 weeks. The hospital staff prepared me extensively. Warning signs to watch for, emergency protocols, medication schedules. They seemed skeptical about releasing her at all. She moved through the trailer like a visitor, touching walls and furniture experimentally. Her old room disturbed her. She stood in the doorway trembling until I guided her to the couch instead. That night, she spoke in complete sentences for the first time, fragments of memories, questions about Mom, confusion about why she felt so empty. I answered honestly but carefully, following the therapist's guidelines. She asked about the clients. Where was Mr. Peterson? Why hadn't Mrs. Chen called? Didn't they need her? The programming ran deep, tangled with her sense of identity and purpose. I showed her the empty closet where the dresses had been. She stared at the bare hangers for a long time, processing their absence. Then she asked what she was supposed to wear now. We went shopping the next day. Zara stood frozen in the clothing store, overwhelmed by choices. She'd never selected her own clothes before. I helped her pick simple things: jeans, t-shirts, a jacket that wasn't pink or frilly. The cashier complimented her selections. Zara looked confused, unable to process praise that wasn't tied to her service. She kept smoothing her new clothes, searching for lace collars that weren't there. Back at the hospital, she showed the therapist her purchases. Dr. Sebastian nodded approvingly, making notes about identity reformation. He warned me the process would be slow, with many setbacks. He was right. Some days Zara seemed almost normal, asking about my life in Tennessee or helping with dinner. Other days she'd sit motionless for hours, whispering her mantra or waiting for bookings that would never come. Mom sent a letter after 3 months. No return address, but the postmark was from Florida. She wrote about starting fresh, finding legitimate work, rebuilding her life. No apology, no acknowledgement of damage done, just business Business updates. I threw it away without showing Zara. The trailer sold quickly to a young couple excited about fixing it up. I used the money to rent a small apartment in town, closer to Zara's treatment facility. 2 bedrooms, clean and simple, with no memories embedded in the walls. Moving day was hard for Zara. She kept returning to her old room, standing in the empty space where her bed had been. The routine disruption triggered a minor episode, but she recovered without hospitalization. Our new neighbor, an elderly woman named Becky, introduced herself the first week. Zara immediately slipped into her granddaughter voice, asking if Becky needed anything, offering to visit. I had to gently redirect her. Becky seemed to understand, mentioning she had a niece with similar struggles. She kept her distance but remained friendly, sometimes leaving baked goods at our door without expecting interaction. Zara's treatment team expanded to include occupational therapy, learning basic life skills Mom had never taught. Grocery shopping, cooking, managing money, things most people took for granted were revelations to her. She struggled with the concept of keeping money she earned. During her first supervised work experience at a local library, she tried to give her entire paycheck to me, confused when I refused it. The library job was therapeutic, suggested by Dr. Sebastian. Quiet, structured, minimal interaction with elderly patrons. Zara could sort books for hours, finding comfort in the repetitive task without the exploitation. One afternoon, she encountered Mr. Peterson at the library. He approached her excitedly, reaching for her hand. Zara froze, her careful progress evaporating. I intervened quickly, but the damage was done. She didn't speak for 3 days afterward, wouldn't leave her room. Dr. Sebastian increased her sessions, working through the trauma response. Slowly, she began emerging again, though library visits stopped temporarily. I got a job at a local restaurant, working nights so I could be available for Zara during days. The routine helped both of us. Structure without the sick patterns of Mom's business. 6 months after the hospital admission, Zara said something that stopped me cold. She thanked me. Not for anything specific, just a quiet expression of gratitude over morning coffee. The first genuine emotion I'd heard from her in years. Mom's money ran out eventually. The hospital bills, therapy costs, medications. It consumed the savings she'd accumulated from selling her daughters. Fitting, in a way. The money returning to heal what it had broken. I applied for assistance programs, navigated insurance appeals, fought for coverage. The system wasn't designed for this kind of trauma. We fell through cracks, faced denials, struggled to maintain consistent treatment. Zara noticed the stress. One evening, she offered to return to work, the old work. She said it matter-of-factly, like suggesting we order pizza. The programming still lurked, waiting to resurface. I showed her our budget instead, explaining how we'd manage without that income. She studied the numbers intently, slowly understanding that survival didn't require selling herself to lonely men. A year passed. Zara's progress came in waves, good weeks followed by setbacks, breakthrough moments shadowed by regression, but the trajectory slowly bent toward healing, even with obstacles. She started talking about the past more coherently, memories of specific clients, things they'd said and done. Dr. Sebastian guided these sessions carefully, helping her reframe experiences without minimizing trauma. Some memories made me sick, details I'd never known, couldn't have imagined. The true scope of what Mom had put her through. Starting so young, her earliest memories were tangled with the abuse, but she also remembered moments before it all started. Playing in the yard, drawing pictures, normal childhood fragments. We worked to recover these, building an identity beyond the rental granddaughter programming. Mom sent another letter on Zara's birthday, this time from Arizona, mentioning she'd started a cleaning service. Still no acknowledgement, no real apology, just updates on her new business venture. Zara asked to read it this time. She held the letter for a long time, not reading, just staring at Mom's handwriting. Then she folded it carefully and asked me to throw it away. That night, she cried for the first time since I'd returned home. Not the programmed tears she'd performed for clients, but real, ugly, healing sobs. I held her while years of suppressed emotion finally found release. The next morning, she asked about college. Thanks for watching my channel, and if you want more stories like these, people comment down below.